Rex Ryan has done. He's a terrific defensive coach. He knows how to coach a defense. Mike Woodson, he's at least led teams to the playoffs. This is Jason Kidd's first year, and he's getting in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons. Just a horrific start. And then we go to the player side, and this time it's D-Will. And we know that after Jason Kidd a couple of days ago said he's okay with losing, it's sunk in, D-Will said, I'm not fine with losing. But this time he said, about the Nets, I'm even surprised with this season, how it's played out. It's like a nightmare. The way the injuries have been and the things we talk about, the lack of energy, the lack of effort, I don't see that being a problem when we put this team together. So, Darren Williams agrees with Jason Kidd. And Blake, this just continues to show the issues, the locker room issues, all of these problems. So, Blake, about Darren Williams, what do you think the solution is to this team? What do you think Darren Williams and Jason Kidd, the two biggest leaders of this team, really have to do to turn it around?
I mean, honestly, I think at this point in the season, obviously you lost Brooke Lopez, who was one of your best players. Darren Williams, obviously the leader of this team, the glue to fit this team together, but somebody needs to go. If it's getting rid of Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and sending them away in a trade because they're just so old, their contracts aren't as expensive as they have been in previous years. But talking about Jason Kidd, he might have to go as well, so you can get a fresh face trying to reload this team and get them to a better spot than they are right now, because they're just going downhill faster and faster, and the train wreck is just continuing in New York right now. Not really sure what the long-term solution is, but somebody's face in that locker room needs to be gone pretty soon, or this team could be looking at one of the worst records in the East. And you got to remember, this team gets no draft picks due to acquiring all those players from the Celtics. The Celtics are sitting pretty right now with the better record than the Nets, but they're still going to be getting all the Nets draft picks. And their salary of their whole team is quite smaller than the Nets right now.
Yeah. So, Blake, would you agree with me if I said that the trades for Kevin Garnett, Jason Terry, and Paul Pierce were the worst moves this offseason?
You still can't make that determination, but so far, I would say they have been one of the worst moves this offseason, just due to the fact that how much the expectations were raised due to acquiring those players and how old that they have been. How old that they've looked so far this season, playing just with what Jason Kidd said is no effort, no motivation, and no pride in the team. So it's been one of the worst, but still, I can't make the full determination if it's been the absolute worst.
Well, so far, I'd have to say the Nets, their offseason moves have been the worst, so far. I mean, not only the trade, but then signing Jason Kidd as the coach just made it that much worse. Really bad year. So, we're going to move to a team that I like to compare to the Nets. The Nets are this year's Lakers of last year. Sign a bunch of players that really don't pay off. And we're going to go to the Lakers coach, Mike D'Antoni. So, Blake, did you hear about the thing where he basically said that Laker fans should root for another team?
I did, and I think Mike D'Antoni is making a mistake. He obviously made his apologies the other day, but he's making this statement because he's angry at the Lakers fan who opposed him as being coach of this team. Obviously, the struggle that this team had last year with all the expectations and getting Dwight Howard and them hiring him over Phil Jackson, who had won 10 world championships previously with both the Lakers and the Bulls. 11, actually, may I say. Correct myself from that one. And they picked him over Phil Jackson. And since then, the Lakers' criticism of Mike D'Antoni has just rippled through the roof. And he's just gotten caught up and sick of all the fuss of the Lakers fans blaming their struggles on him. And I think he finally just let one out in the media, which he should have kept quiet. And obviously he apologized and took back his statement.
Yeah, honestly, I don't care about his apology. He said, I was an idiot last night. I was out of my mind. I was ticked off. We didn't play well. Said some stuff I shouldn't have said. It was stupid. That's me. I just made a mistake. Well, Mike, I hate to break it to you, but if an apology was if that's all you had to do, I probably think that hundreds of mistakes other players have made, LeBron James, everybody, do you think everybody loved him after he apologized? Honestly, Mike D'Antoni's been in the NBA long enough to know that he can't say stuff like that. It's just a big mistake for him. And honestly, it's just, I continue to lose respect for this guy. I don't know. I just have nothing to say about it, really. Just a disappointing year for Mike D'Antoni, a disappointing past couple of years as his coaching career continues to go down the trash. So, earlier we talked about Steph Curry and Golden State obviously defeating the LA Clippers yesterday. Well, his brother got some good news as well on Christmas, and that is that the Grizzlies have decided to sign him. So, Blake, what are your initial thoughts about Seth Curry, the former Duke standout, going to Memphis? So what are your thoughts?
Just to add on that, Seth Curry, obviously the brother of Stephen Curry, who's shown so far that he's been one of the best superstars this league has had so far in this new era. But a lot of expectations. He had a great career at Duke. They made the Final Four a few years ago when he was one of the leading scorers on that team. He still hasn't been able to live up to his brother's standards set at Davidson in both so far with the Warriors, but a lot of expectations to live up to. But I see him at the best being a very contributing player to this Grizzlies team, maybe a player coming off the bench and having a key role, but not a superstar, not a starting player even in my opinion. But I do think he could translate into a helpful player for the Grizzlies, who are kind of in need of help right now, who've struggled so far this season, not off to the start that they were last year, but I see him being a good bench player that can solidly help out this team.
Yeah, I agree. I think he can be a helpful player as well, but honestly, he got signed by the Warriors and didn't do much, so he really has to prove that he is that he's worth it, because he lost the first opportunity. He's very lucky to get a second, and obviously he's proven it while playing in the D-League. So really, I hope he does well. I like him, but unlike his brother, really, he's just he can shoot, but he doesn't have the same crossover, doesn't have that same ball handling ability. Still a phenomenal player nonetheless. So, we are going to move on now to our looking back at the year, looking back at 2013. It's just been a phenomenal year, and one of the best years of basketball in a while. So, Blake, we start with you. Who was your NBA team of the year in 2013? Not necessarily who was the best, but who really proved the most to you?
Unfortunately, I'm not a big Heat fan, but this is going to be a Heat love fest. I just read the script right now and saw how many different things that are going to get handed over to me, to the Heat players, and as much as this pains me to do, gotta give it up. The team of the year was the back-to-back champion Miami Heat, 2013 champions, led by LeBron James, led by Chris Bosh, and led by Dwayne Wade, who was injured throughout the playoffs. But this was the team of the year due to the fact that they were able to come back from all the obstacles and win what's one of the toughest things to do is win a second consecutive championship, let alone return to the NBA Finals for a third consecutive year. They did this, and they did this in stride, and it was a full team effort despite D. Wade, like I said, being injured and not being able to contribute to his full abilities. This team won the championship, Game 7 versus the Spurs. One of the most magical moments that I've seen in finals history was Game 6 when Ray Allen hit that key shot that translated to this Heat winning the championship and just the full momentum swing that late in a series. But that is my team of 2013, the champions, back-to-back Miami Heat. We're looking to get a three-peat this year, and we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. The Miami Heat, undoubtedly. There were some other great teams, of course. The Pacers really were impressive. The Spurs could make a case as well. But when it comes down to it, not only did the Heat won it, but that they withstood adversity. They withstood 2 7-game series. When it looked like they were done, they weren't. And then they come back this year and have really no relapse. They're playing phenomenal this year. The Miami Heat are one of the greatest basketball teams of all time. And if they can win it this year, they make their case for the best of all time, up there with some of those early Celtics teams led by Bill Russell. Some of those Laker teams with Magic Johnson, the Celtics with Larry Bird, and of course, the Bulls with Michael Jordan. But the Heat look great. So, I'm going to start for Player of the Year. And, of course, it's going to LeBron James because there has been no player better than him. Just ridiculously good. An athlete unlike we've ever seen. I guess you could say Bo Jackson is probably the best athlete of all time, but them two are definitely up there. He's got a combination of grace, of power, of speed. It's just amazing skill level, a great rebounder, a great passer, and LeBron 2013 belongs to you, as we saw you winning MVP and, of course, AP Player of the Year. So, Blake, is LeBron your Player of the Year, or do you have somebody else in mind?
Nope, nobody else comes to mind. It has to go to LeBron James. We thought 2012 was his year, but man, we were wrong about that one. 2013 was even better for him. His fourth NBA MVP award, his second consecutive championship, and he was married as well, as I mentioned before in the episode. But LeBron James played to his full ability, despite not having D-Wade and Chris Bosh contributed as much as one would expect. He was just the most outstanding player of the basketball season, and as we saw today as well, the most outstanding male athlete of the year.
Okay, so Blake, will the favorite moment of 2013 go to a Heat-related moment, or will it be somebody else, Blake? Who is it?
Whew. It's hard to think about this one because there was a play yesterday, that LeBron James dunk from Dwayne Wade on Christmas Day versus the Lakers, which really caught my attention as one of the moments of 2013. But when I look back and think of all the great moments in NBA in the whole season of last year and this year, in 2013, it has to go to Game 6 of the NBA Finals, one of the most exciting basketball games that I've ever seen. Just so many great players contributing on both sides. A Spurs team which was at the end of its dynasty, looking for a fourth championship, and the Heat looking for back-to-back titles. It was a full-on battle throughout in Miami, but in the end, Ray Allen got that clutch three-pointer to send it into overtime. The Heat ended up winning that one. That has to be the moment of the year in NBA basketball.
Well, just to give it some diversity, even though that would probably be my pick as well, I'm going to go with DeAndre Jordan's dunk on Brandon Knight. The death of Brandon Knight. Blake, I'm assuming you've seen that play.
Oh, yes. One of the greatest dunks, if not the greatest dunk of all time.
I mean, the dunk was just insane, and then the DeAndre Jordan stink face after it was great as well. That's my moment of 2013. Just an amazing dunk, pure athleticism. And Brandon Knight, also his face after, well, it basically showed his embarrassment, his sadness, and, he looked like he died. Like, literally, he looked like it was over. He had no reason to play anymore, and it was just a ridiculous dunk. And I hope we have more of those. We just saw one like the LeBron dunk, but I want to see more. Those are always great to see. The Clippers obviously great at those. They had the Mozgov when Blake Griffin dunked on him. You had Blake Griffin dunking on basically everybody. But it's been a great year of dunks, and I hope it continues. So, Blake, we come to our final segment of this year for Full Court Press, and for our final segment, we are going to look forward to next year. So, Blake, who will be the team of 2014?
First, before we do that, we're going to do one more breaking news segment. My friend Nick has just some more news to add. Nick, come away with the news on the Detroit Pistons in the D-League.
Well, the Detroit Pistons have just assigned the rookies Tony Mitchell and Peyton Siva to the Fort Wayne Mad Ants of the Development League. So they took them in the second round of this year's draft. And Mitchell had appeared in 10 games with the Pistons, but he was only averaging 1.1 points and 1.1 rebounds. Wow, that's good continuity per game. And he was drafted 37th overall, so that's just horrible. But Siva was only averaging 5 minutes. He was the 56th selection. He got an NCAA championship at Louisville, but he was also failing in the NBA. So maybe they can work this out, get some stuff going. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, Nick, for that announcement on Peyton Siva.
Blake.
Also, Tony Mitchell, the D-League.
I mean, you look at just putting this out there, the team, the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. And I always have to do this, but these D-League teams are just ridiculous. The Fort Wayne Mad Ants. You have, okay, this is the most uncreative one. The Delaware 87ers are the 76ers one. You've got, let's see here, the Skyforce, the Armor, the Maine Red Claws, the Iowa Energy, the Reno Bighorns. Some bad names and just some ridiculous names. But back to it, Blake. 2014 team